I'm Ashton Addison from Event Chain for Investmentpitch Media and Fintech News Network. And today on Blockchain Interviews, we have Alexander S. Blum, the founder and COO of 2Prime. Alex, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you here today.
Hey, likewise, Ashton. Glad to be here.
Great. Well, let's kick off the interview by learning a little bit about 2Prime for those who don't know and exactly how you're bridging traditional finance and cryptocurrencies.
Yeah, so broadly, Two Prime is a fintech company that's creating financial products that blend aspects of traditional investment along with unique structural features of cryptocurrencies. It's founded by myself and my partner, Dr. Mark Fleury. Mark previously founded an open source software company called JBoss that was acquired for $350 million in 2006. And he lets me hang out with him sometimes. I've been working in the blockchain space and in traditional and crypto hedge funds and VC funds since 2013. Prior to that, I was in the Peace Corps. But yeah, the interest at 2 Prime of this first product we have called FF1 is basically a global store of value that's both available on cryptocurrency exchanges as well as in a private investment vehicle. So it's pretty much globally accessible. It's a liquid product. It is backed by a basket of blockchain assets that we invest in, from leading cryptocurrencies to LP interests and venture funds to other interest earning investments, lending, a variety, but it's sort of a portfolio management approach to a basket of assets that supports the price of a publicly traded token. But because there's also a finite supply, when people buy more of it, the price goes up because there's more people wanting the same thing on a market. So that's kind of the general overview of what we do. There's some similarities to something like Grayscale Bitcoin Investment Trust, but with a different basket of an actively managed portfolio underlying it rather than
Yeah.
just like Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's very interesting. And I want to dive into the stable growth part of it because, in a little bit here. But in terms of fundraising and talking about the financing for blockchain companies, the approach that 2Prime is taking is a little bit different than what's been happening in traditional finance or traditional crypto and what happened in 2016, 2017 with ICOs and stuff. Can you talk about how 2Prime is trying to reinvent that and take it to the next level and hopefully bring more professionalism and regulation into merging crypto and traditional finance together?
Yeah, so I think one aspect of what we've done is just the way the thing is sold. Is we call it this continuous token offering, but I guess as opposed to traditional ICO, you would see, first of all, you'd have a token that represents basically nothing and no ownership of anything, no legal claim on anything, no assets underlying it other than this abstract concept of network value. And then a lot of those tokens are sold privately at massive discounts, like 80, 90% in some cases, to fund just getting onto an exchange, getting the basic tech made, and then the thing goes on a public exchange and it's sort of like a super early stage IPO. The price goes way up. All those people that bought it at 90% discount get their money out, and the people that are retail buyers get left holding essentially vaporware in some cases. And so we saw this repeated over and over in the crypto space years ago, which ultimately is damaging and gives people a bad taste in the mouth, and they have no more money to participate, and kind of revalidates a lot of suspicion and fear around the industry. And so
Yeah.
for us, we've basically we only sell into the market as there's demand for it. And so the goal isn't like a one day huge value growth or like huge sale and then we disappear, but just an incremental increase in sales and demand through information on the treasury of investments underlying it, as well as just marketing and advertising. But we didn't sell any tokens at any discount prior to just listing on Bithumb Exchange at $3. And then we just continue to wait for people to sell it. Obviously, like right now it's trading at $4.51, I think, as of this morning. And, if somebody buys a few $1,000s more, it'll trade at 452. And it's just this kind of incremental sales based upon real demand rather than hype and marketing and these asymmetric access to the investment prior to a public trading listing. And the other thing is we're not a tech company. We're not, Mark worked and studied at MIT as a PhD in theoretical physics. I also I've attended MIT and Tufts University and have a tech background. But
Hmm.
part of our insight is also that a lot of the innovation and things that are actually working in the crypto space are not the thousandth and first blockchain that is really just kind of a marketing and narrative, I think, in a lot of cases to excite people about something new,
Hmm.
but instead is really financial innovation around better stores of value, transnational movement of currency, and rapid fundraising. And so when we sell a token, the proceeds of that sale goes into a basket of assets that are just used to support the price of the token. It doesn't go to
Hmm.
my pocket. It actually doesn't even belong to me. It belongs to a treasury that we just manage.
Hmm.
So those are some differences from a regular like ICO approach.
Definitely. And there's been a lot of flaws in, self-regulation sort of with that, the old ICO offerings. And there was always that dark period where they'd raise funds and then it's almost like the team disappeared. And, you hope that they're working on the project, but they sort of have all the funds up front, for all of the future rounds that they could be doing. Whereas with 2 Prime, you're going for more, as an analogy, raising a seed round, a small amount, and then as you get to the point of the next milestone, Series A and Series B, then you can raise more. And you're saying that this creates more stable growth in the token or the coin. Is that sort of the correct analogy for it?
Yeah, so I think it's sort of a hybrid between something like a stable coin and Bitcoin. So in the case of Bitcoin, it's basically pure supply and demand dynamics that dictate the price. There's no underlying asset that gives Bitcoin
Mm-hmm.
value. It's just scarcity and demand, and there's some innovation around the way that's transferred and secured on a blockchain. But there's nothing that gives it value other than supply and demand dynamics.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other side of it, you have something. So as a consequence, like because the value of it is not tied to like some NAV or some underlying asset, if you have the same supply and growing demand, the theoretical limit price of Bitcoin is infinity, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
if everybody wants it, is willing to pay more for it, and there's nothing to other than demand to value it, it can go up to anything.
Yeah.
As at the same time, you have something like a stable coin, which is completely backed by an asset, or at least they claim to be, but they also have infinite supply. So every new dollar purchased of USDC or GUSD or Tether creates a new Tether token representing a dollar, right? And the goal is to
Mm-hmm.
stay a dollar, but the price is you're never going to speculate really on the price of the USDT. It's
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be at a dollar. If it wasn't, something would be really wrong. So what we've done is take that finite supply aspect of a Bitcoin and combined it with the asset backing of something like Tether or other basket of blockchain investments, and combine this together into something that both has asset backing. So anytime we make a sale, it supports the price. And we have, like, if somebody wants to sell back their token, we have that cash is sitting in a treasury to support that. And at the same time, because there's finite supply, the price can go up as there's increasing demand. It's not too different from like a, like what Curve Finance or Uniswap or some of these algorithmic market makers are doing. It's just that the proceeds are going to a basket of assets rather than just being held as ETH or Bitcoin directly.
Yeah. And this is quite a unique approach, and it seems like you're trying to, or it may create a new wave, across the industry. And I'm sure you see this as a more professional, incredible method of fundraising. Do you think that the blockchain industry will start or should start adopting these methods of fundraising?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it depends what your goals are. I mean, our goal is to create something that holds value well and can be accessed globally and prove out this model of finite supply. And so that's, it's more financial innovation. If your goal is to make a blockchain that does something that hasn't been done before, then you need financing to develop technology, which is expensive. You need to hire a bunch of people, and there might not be revenue returning for that business proposition for some time. And so, for what we're doing, it works well. And I mean, it depends on the kind of use case you're looking for. We're interested in the kind of those financial structural aspects of the way crypto works and provides global access to a product. But I think I think there's a reason, like in the VC world, there's staged funding based upon milestones and progress. And I think it's a question of incentives. Like if I have $1 billion to create a tech company because I want to be a billionaire, but I have all the billion up front, I don't have a lot of motivation to like make all the tech. I've already gotten to the endpoint. It depends if you're intrinsically or extrinsically motivated, but it's certainly for most people is a different incentive structure if you just have a ton of money all of a sudden, especially if you're, I think a lot of people that are young and trying to innovate, it's not, part of it is a profit or financial incentive to change their lives. And so if it's changed suddenly, like, why would I give that money back to make something? And so I guess it just depends on what you're trying to achieve, but staged financing, or in our case, like a rolling sale of a product, I think in some cases is just makes a lot more sense.
Definitely. And there already has been billions of dollars that have been raised for blockchain companies in, the more self-regulated way. And this method really wasn't too much of a part of it. But even though billions of dollars were raised, it seems like we're a long way away from mainstream adoption. Is the methods of fundraising that 2Prime is using a part of one of the stepping stones of getting to mainstream adoption? And also, do you have any other points about what else needs to be done in the industry to reach more mainstream adoption?
Yeah, so I think the first question is like, what does mainstream adoption mean? Because obviously, like when we're talking about blockchain, we're talking about there's a financial layer as well as a technical layer. And so if it means like we're using and tracking all of our data for our healthcare and supply chains and stuff on a blockchain, obviously there are technical innovations around scalability, just coordinating systems. Like I think one of the issues is like if I run a supply chain company and my competitor wants to share data, I'm not really that incentivized to have this open public blockchain ledger to share all the activities of my business with my competitor. So it's hard on a social level to orchestrate some of the technical possibilities, but on a financial level, I think we see a lot of money moving to a digital realm, and the mainstream financial system becoming more and more sort of structurally unstable. And so, I think it's sort of, it's an interesting kind of struggle between sort of human authority around like, this is a government, we make rules, we're going to use these different tactics to affect the economy, versus an algorithmic approach that says, we are not the government, we are a computer program, and our authority comes from logic and reason. I think some of that is a transition of belief from human leadership to algorithmic decision-making. So I think that's a hard leap to make. Like it's a lot easier for me as most people to believe in a leader and follow a human just as mammals than it is to follow some abstract idea around a Bitcoin or a blockchain that most people don't understand. And so I don't know. I think it's an interesting conversation that's going on in society right now. And I think what we're doing, sound like financial products that, don't screw people over, that make sense and can be explained to people and can at least keep a pace of inflation and solve problems as far as, our goal isn't to do an 1,000x return. It's to give people a place to put money safely that can at least grow a pace with inflation. And so I think that serves, there's a ton of money in the world floating around looking for safe places to go. Some is people in like Venezuela that have the hyperinflation and just want somewhere else to put their funds. And then there's very wealthy people that just don't want to lose their money. Their goal isn't to triple their money. I think Bill Gates is perfectly fine with the wealth level he's at. And so I think both of those groups, we could solve a problem. And I think the more problems we solve as an industry, the more there's mainstream adoption.
Yeah. And it's interesting. You mentioned there's a bit of structural issues going on with the American markets right now, and a lot of people are trying to figure out where to put their money. And Bitcoin was born in the last financial crisis, the 2008 crisis, and now here we are in a potentially even bigger crisis. And cryptocurrencies have been moving quite a bit so far in 2020. Do you have any thoughts on, is now the time, now that we're in another crisis, that Bitcoin is ready to take the next stage? And are there any things in the traditional markets that may be triggering this?
Yeah, so our group is bullish around the performance of Bitcoin, or even more so right now, I'm interested in the performance of Ethereum. I think it looks like, like the Bitcoin to Ethereum ratio of what their prices are. It looks like Ethereum is increasingly breaking out and grabbing more market share, or reducing Bitcoin dominance. So, that's coming from a few factors. One is actual development and innovation within the space, actual increase in institutional purchases, as we see at groups like Grayscale that are, selling more shares at Grayscale by AUM than Bitcoins are being created. And so there's just supply demand dynamics that are accelerating. Technical changes around like proof of stake for Ethereum 2.0 that are upcoming, as well as a lot of the DeFi products that are coming up, allowing people to basically leverage and do yield farming in innovative ways that both avoid regulation and allow for this sort of super leveraged financial system to start to emerge, which is pretty risky, but also further extends the use case of Ethereum. I think all those things are bullish indicators for where the market's going. Obviously, the halvening happened with Bitcoin as well recently. So I think all those things are positive. And then on top of that, the like quantitative easing of just tons of trillions of dollars of new money entering the system from multiple governments around the world. Well, it has to go somewhere. You know, it's not being released directly, injected into the economy through Bitcoin, but some of it will trickle down there. And when you have consistent supply and growing amount of cash for it, then like there's only one thing that, you know, happens. I don't know the timing of that. And there's obviously other factors. For example, there's a lot of traders and investors that pull a lot of that value and profit out through arbitrage, through short-term trading, high-frequency trading that you don't see realized into the profit of Bitcoin, but are being injected into the Bitcoin economy and basically taken off the table almost immediately from traders. But there's definitely movement and a lot of fundamental indicators that suggest the price would continue to move upwards for both Bitcoin and Ethereum, at least in the short to medium term.
Yeah, it's very interesting times we're in right now, Alex, and we're running out of time for the interview, but if the viewers are looking to learn more about 2Prime, fundraising methods, or reach out to you and connect with your project, what's the best way for them to learn more?
Yeah, so you can go to our main website, 2Prime, TWO prime.io. You can follow us on Twitter at 2_prime. You can follow me on Twitter at, just like my name there, at Alexander S. Blum. We'll also be launching a direct-to-consumer purchase of the token on our new domain, backthatassetup.com, starting the first week of August. I'm very proud of that pun. So those are good places to get started. We have a Telegram group, 2Prime as well. And you can always email info at 2prime.io.
Great. Well, I will leave those links in the description box below for the viewers. Thanks so much for taking the time, Alex. I do really appreciate it. All the best with 2Prime, and let's follow up in the near future.
Pleasure to speak with you. Thanks.